Thanks for being here. Subscribe to Cheating Stories Best, so you don't miss new stories.
Did the wife like the other man at work? Or did she miss her husband? In today's story, we will get answers to questions like these. Enjoy the story! I think we were a pretty average suburban couple with good careers and a wonderful family. We were in our 30s and had been happily married for 15 years, with 2 young children, Callum and Jesse. I'm Paul and Susan is my wife. I was just under 6 feet tall. My former athletic frame had rounded out a bit, but I still had a broad chest, and I hoped the weight fit me well, or so I hoped. Susan was a slender redhead, 5 feet 5 inches tall before she was wearing heels, with an attractive figure that I still admired. We had the same friends from school whom we still met on weekends, but after getting married, our meetings became less active. We loved sports but now preferred to socialize with our spouses, regularly throwing parties. Susan spent a lot of time with her best friend, Claire, as well as her mother, Anna. Claire was a bridesmaid at our wedding and our children's favorite aunt, although they were not actually related. To be honest, after the divorce from the idiot who deceived her, Claire and Susan became even closer. Claire was a wonderful and cheerful person who did not deserve this. When they left, I often stayed with the children, which I liked. I managed to be a fun parent, keeping the kids happy, while Susan was stricter, but we got along well in that regard. Susan had been acting strange for a while. I tried to ask questions gently, but I couldn't figure out exactly what was wrong. Sometimes she was nervous about money or the lack of it and wanted to move into a bigger house and take luxurious vacations. I focused more on the kids and social life but took on a lot of overtime to cover vacation expenses. Susan began to communicate less with our friends, preferring to see her mother. She eventually admitted that she was worried about her. Her stepfather died a year and a half ago, leaving her mother a widow. Despite our efforts to support her, she could not move on with her life. Susan focused on her mother, often inviting her over for dinners and bottles of wine. Anna seemed to enjoy our company but refused any other social activity. Over time, I began to wonder if Susan was trying to create situations for me to spend time with her mom. This didn't bother me. We got along great, and I enjoyed her company. She was 53 years old but looked much younger and was often mistaken for Susan's sister. I kept telling her that there would be a long line of men behind her wanting to ask her out, which at least seemed to make her a little happy. Our meetings became more frequent. Perhaps this was Susan's attempt to help Anna begin to communicate with men again and a harbinger of more active social communication. It was with these thoughts in mind that I had one of the strangest conversations of my life while sitting on the couch watching TV. Paul, I'm really worried about Mom. She's really having a hard time since George died. She's lost the love of her life, and she just doesn't know how to move on. We're trying to help her. You've been very supportive. Not sure what else we can do. You were wonderful to her. Did I tell you what she said? You remind her of George when he was younger. After my useless father left with his girlfriend, it took George a long time to convince his mother to give him a chance. He was so patient and standing. She just needs time to find someone like George. Susan was silent for what seemed like an eternity. I thought maybe she was starting to doze off. I think you should ask her out of surprise. I laughed, understanding the joke, but then Susan didn't laugh. You're serious, aren't you? Yes, I'm serious. Look, I know this sounds weird, but she needs to get over this barrier, and we are the only people who can help her, more specifically you because you are a man. Thank you for noticing, but I'm her brother-in-law. This is hardly suitable. Why not try to find someone her age? She absolutely refuses to even talk to another man. You are the only one she trusts. Okay, then, a date between friends just to get her used to going out again? I can do that, I guess. Yeah, a date, mostly, but if it goes further than that, I wouldn't mind. What do you mean? She needs to feel wanted, to make sure she's still attracted to men. I can flirt a little, of course. Many men find her attractive. Honestly, I don't think she even knows it. Her confidence is at 0, and she's forgotten what it's like. She thinks all the guys are trying to take advantage of her. She needs to realize she can be with another man, damn it. Sounds like you're asking me to sleep with her. Susan shrugged. You can't be serious, she's your mom. Don't tell me you're not attracted to her. I've seen the way you look, and you get along so well. All I'm saying is that I'll remain calm regardless of the outcome. And I assume you don't mind if I cheat on you. It's not cheating if I suggested it, and I know you see it more as an act of love. It's safe because I know you both love me and will come back to me. Your mom knows about your great plan. She'll explode when you tell her. We've talked about it a lot. In fact, I think she's starting to accept the idea. This is just crazy, Susan. I know it sounds weird, but just think about it, okay? Don't dismiss the idea before I've had a chance to think it through. We talked a lot about this, Susan constantly insisting that she was happy with any outcome. My initial denial of the idea gradually began to fade. I had to face the truth about Anna's attractiveness to me. She was still gorgeous, with long brown hair, deep brown eyes, and a wonderful character. I really wanted to help her, and it wouldn't be hard, far from it. I was married, but my wife suggested it, so potentially having a night with an attractive woman for both a noble reason and permission, it was almost too good to be true. I finally agreed to meet with Anna at a neutral location, without Susan, to discuss this. We exchanged pleasantries and ordered drinks before I found the courage to mention the elephant in the room. Anna, Susan mentioned that it would be okay for her if we wanted to do this, go out together. How do you feel about that? It seems strange, to be honest, but we've always gotten along well, so it might work. I'll be honest, Paul, something really needs to change. I'm very lonely, but I find it hard to trust men. My first husband treated me very badly. She looked like she was going to cry, so I walked over to her chair and hugged her. Her perfume and the feel of her body surprised me. It was absolutely heavenly. I didn't want to delve deeper, so I tried to lighten the mood. Well, I'm really enjoying my time with you, and I think we can consider this our first date. It's not that bad, is it? The corners of Anna's lips turned into a beautiful smile. Thanks, Paul. It's really not that bad. I feel better. We enjoyed dinner and light conversation, relaxing enough for me to ask her a few more questions. I asked a lot about her life and her relationship with George. Anna was as open and sociable as always. If we go ahead with this, is there anything in particular you'd like to get out of this, Anna? It's been so long, I haven't dated someone new in almost 30 years. I'm not even sure I can. You can. You're great company. You just need to be yourself. You're very attractive, and you need to start living again instead of just existing. Anyway, you're doing great tonight. That's so nice of you to say, and I'm doing really well because I'm with you. We're friends, and you're easy to talk to. Okay, we can meet again if you want and see if it helps you regain your confidence. This should be easy enough. You're a beautiful woman, Anna. You'll have a hard time fighting off those who want to. We enjoyed several dinners together, each one relaxing and fun. I drove Anna home and turned off the car engine. Before I could say goodbye, Anna leaned over and gave me a quick kiss on the lips. I was stunned by how awkward it was, but the kiss felt like being struck by lightning. Sorry, Paul, I've been thinking about this for a long time. I couldn't hold it in any longer. Don't be sorry. I leaned down and kissed her properly. It was a long and passionate kiss. We finally pulled away from each other. Wow, that was a kiss. Are you sure you want to continue, Anna? She nodded. Yeah, it feels right, good somehow. And you want this to develop further? Are you asking about intim, Paul? I swallowed, trying to maintain eye contact. I guess so. I'd like us to get closer. I've discussed it with Susan, and she's very supportive of it. It was all her idea. I was turned on. Partly because she was attractive, but her straightforward and specific statements turned me on. Obviously, of the three of us, I was behind you like it, Paul. Would you like to sleep with me? I can't deny it, Anna, but I'm not sure it's right. I think that's right. I may not trust many men, Paul, but I'm an intimate being, and I'm very attracted to you. I'm sure we'll have a great time. I was speechless, so excited and amazed. My attention was broken when Anna took my hand in hers. What do you want out of this, Paul? This is a one-time opportunity. Is there anything I can offer you? A dream that Susan didn't fulfill. The thought flashed into my mind before I could stop it, and I began to stutter. No, nothing, Anna. Anna smiled. It was very disarming. Now I know you're lying. I promise not to say a word. Please share your fantasy with me. I can't tell you. There is one thing, but it's really awkward to mention. You might consider it disrespectful to George. It's not the widow in black, is it? My eyes widen in horror. Oh God, this is it. Tell me more. Okay, I admit it crossed my mind. You see Monica Bellucci in the James Bond movie Spectre? I think you look like her. Sorry, it's just a stupid fantasy. I wish I looked like her, but thanks for the comparison. So, do you like the whole black pumps, seam stockings, and heels thing? Sorry, that was a stupid thing to mention. No need to apologize. Let me tell you a secret. George loved buying me lingerie, and I loved dressing up for him. I have a lot of those, as well as different uniforms. I'd love to make your fantasy come true. My thoughts were now racing. Wow, really? That would be, well, wow. If we're doing this, let's do it right. I already have everything I need, and you're taking care of the widow's needs, after all. If I'm at it, I want you in a smart suit and dinner at a fancy restaurant. Have you agreed on Friday? I was still in a fog when we parted with another lingering kiss. I sat in the car, trying to make sense of our conversation, mostly reminding myself that Anna was more than ready for night, and then trying to anticipate Susan's reaction when I arrived home. I expected Susan to be angry that I told her about our conversation, although I had missed the whole story about the widow's fantasy. She was surprisingly calm, partly because Anna had already called her and she knew we had a date planned. Susan was absolutely calm. I couldn't stop suggesting that we cancel everything, but she insisted that I couldn't do it. It was exactly what her mother needed. She helped prepare my suit and iron my shirt. It was all quite surreal. She kissed me as I left and shocked me by telling me she would see me tomorrow. Not just a date, but a night out. Damn it. I was waiting in a high-class restaurant, feeling ostentatious in my suit and with my stomach churning with excitement, barely able to keep the expensive dish inside. Then I saw her and was amazed. She spoke to the head waiter, who was clearly fascinated by her. I saw her in profile, noticed all her curves, caught a glimpse of her attractive figure and the seam of her black stockings before she walked towards me. She was the absolute embodiment of my intimacy fantasy. A tight-fitting black cotton jacket covered a white satin blouse that was clearly straining, the material stretching across her chest and the buttons barely holding in place. The tight pencil skirt hugged her hips as she clicked on the marble floor in her heels. As she approached, I noticed she was wearing more makeup than usual, including bright red lipstick and red nail polish. Her hair was pulled up, emphasizing her height and elegance. I tried to close my mouth to avoid drooling. She smiled at me. I suppose this meets your expectations, Paul, or should I say James? James Bond, let's stick with Paul. I don't want to be interrupted by villains. And yes, this definitely meets my expectations. You are absolutely amazing. I hope you feel comfortable in it. Well, not exactly comfortable, but I do feel good. It's erotic dressing for your deepest desires. I left the fascinator in mesh veil in the car. It seemed like it would be too much for a restaurant. I feel honored. We had another great evening filled with eating, drinking, and dancing before we returned to her house. She put on the fascinator and veil as soon as she got out of the car. Now she was the archetypal widow, and my dream came true. I was stunned when she led me straight up the stairs to her bedroom. Are you sure you want to do this? What, have an intim? Yes, that's exactly what I want to do, Paul. I intend to make your fantasy come true. God, I didn't even realize how much I needed this. I'm going to dry you off tonight. The next morning, we repeated this again and again. She was an intim dynamo. I've never met a woman who was so loud, demanding, and encouraging all at the same time. It seemed like I was completely under her spell. I went home in trepidation, not knowing what reaction to expect, almost tiptoeing back into our house. Susan was in the kitchen, Mom called and said you were coming back. Oh, did she say anything else? Just that you were perfect in every way. Are you hungry? Do you want breakfast? Yeah, that'll be great. So, are we good? Susan was surprisingly calm and matter-of-fact about everything. We're okay. It wasn't cheating. We still love each other, and Mom seems happier already. Our lives seem to continue as usual. We discussed my time with Anna, like going to the store. Susan was delighted with her mom's improved mood, saying she seemed alive again. Luckily, she never asked me to share details. Susan was back to her normal self. I didn't want to delve too deeply into why. I was just happy that things seemed better. Unfortunately, this did not last. Over time, Susan again became withdrawn and distracted. I wondered if she regretted letting me spend time with her mom. I tried to apologize and assured her it wouldn't happen again, but she insisted that she had no regrets. I called Anna, but she couldn't offer any explanation for Susan's behavior, insisting that it had nothing to do with our actions. Susan asked her mom about our night together and seemed pleased with how things turned out. The feeling of distance continued for weeks as I tried in every possible way to regain Susan's favor. How did all this happen, was the question constantly running through my head. Once the kids were a little older and didn't need constant watching, I started going out with my best friend Claire. We met my two nieces, Kate and Juliet, every few weeks when our schedules allowed, and I really enjoyed it. The girls were young and full of energy, and we got along great. Claire was always cheerful and could easily communicate with almost anyone. Both girls were attractive and drew a lot of attention, but I was surprised that some of that attention was directed at Claire and me. Claire, who had been divorced 3 years ago, was free, and I sometimes felt a bit left out. I enjoyed our conversations and jokes. They were funny, especially when young guys praised the virtues of experienced women. It didn't commit me to anything. I would never cheat on Paul. It was just a bit of fun and an escape from the life of being a wife and mom. We found ourselves in a tricky situation one evening when some unfamiliar guys started getting too clingy. I was worried about the girls but struggled to handle the guy who tried to kiss me. As I pushed him away and considered pouring my drink on him, he suddenly disappeared. It took me a moment to realize someone had pulled him away from the table and thrown him to the floor. He got up with 3 friends, facing my savior. I suddenly recognized him as Edward Rochester, a wealthy client from work. He looked different without his business suit, a big, physically strong man exuding confidence. I think that's what scared the guys away. I didn't even have to fight. I insisted he join us and thanked him repeatedly, as did the girls. We spent the rest of the night with him, uninterrupted. His life seemed exciting. He'd lived in several countries and found success. Even though we all wanted to hear more, he spent most of the time asking about our lives and encouraging the girls to pursue their aspirations. He was very inspiring. They both seemed a little obsessed with him, and I couldn't blame them. He was brilliant and our hero. The next day at work, I saw him, which was unusual since he usually came in only every couple of weeks. He was absolutely charming, and I felt indebted, but he insisted I stop thanking him. I told him about the girls, now full of ideas about traveling and post-university plans. When I talked to him, my stomach fluttered strangely, finding myself checking my makeup and hoping to run into him again. He offered to accompany me to our next outing to keep me out of trouble. I laughed at the joke but mentioned specifics for our next time out. My stomach churned when I saw him at the bar. We chatted, and he seemed interested in me. I was flattered. Initially, my nieces encouraged me, saying it was okay to have fun and that he clearly liked me. It was fun, feeling young again, when anything seemed possible, and I went with the flow. The next evening, we met again, and the girls seemed concerned, saying they loved Uncle Paul and shouldn't do anything stupid. I didn't understand what they meant. It wasn't serious. Claire noticed me kissing him goodnight and gave me a lecture about being an idiot and not thinking about Paul, insisting she wouldn't come if Edward was around. I tried to leave it at that, but I kept thinking about Edward. He was in great shape, especially compared to Paul, who'd let himself go a bit. Around the same time, I thought Paul might help my mom. I knew she was depressed, hiding her doctor's visits from me. She needed a fresh start and seemed encouraged and smiling only around Paul. We often saw Edward off, rejecting his further advances. When our taxi didn't show, Edward offered us a ride home, but everything went wrong. He dropped off the girls, who looked worried, waving us off. Edward drove me home, stopping in a quiet parking lot near my house to drop me off. I stopped and forced myself out of the car, apologizing. I was really confused by all my conflicting emotions. It was all I could do not to cry when I saw Paul. I refused Edward's offer to take me out, but I felt my resolve begin to weaken. I started telling myself that having a quiet drink with him wouldn't hurt, dinner with him wouldn't hurt. Then he surprised me with an invitation to my favorite singer's concert, with backstage access and a personal meeting. I had tried for weeks to get even regular tickets without success, and failed in the ticket lottery. This was something I had always wanted to experience. This request coincided with my decision to ask Paul to take care of my mother. I did it mostly for her, but I admit that the idea of insurance may have been floating somewhere deep in my thoughts. The conversation didn't go as I planned. Paul was just too calm. "Who is this and why do you want to do this, Susan?" I tried to be stingy with the details of what I was expecting. "I love you madly, Paul. It's just a one-time opportunity. It's mostly about the concert on Friday and maybe sharing something special. It doesn't matter who it is, you do not know him." I could hardly tell him the truth, that he was a rich, handsome, and absolutely charming client from work, someone who made me feel like a stupid teenager in his imposing presence. Paul brought me back to reality. "Don't act like it's just a concert. If you want to go with someone else, I won't physically stop you without threats of divorce or anger." I was almost disappointed. He should have fought harder for me. But then I convinced him that there was no risk of losing me. Paul seemed more sad than anything else. "You had fun with my mom, remember what we agreed? It's not cheating if you know about it, and I will come back to be all yours, just like you came back to me. You practically begged me to do this, and we both had a choice. You're not giving me a choice here." We barely spoke to each other for the next few days. Paul seemed busy, but he didn't leave or make any demands, which was a good sign. As I carefully walked down the stairs, I felt Paul's eyes on me. The bloody slit in my new dress opened up to my thigh as I walked down, trying to hide the top of my stockings. Reaching the bottom in his strappy heels, he gave me a disdainful look. "You're clearly working hard for him. It's a shame you don't put in as much effort for us. Are you sure you want to do this?" I nodded. "You had fun, and I think I have the right to." Paul simply left without a word. I took his passivity for consent and decided not to ask how he was coping. It was better not to disturb this beast. I left, assuring him that I would be back by midnight. The concert was amazing, as was the dinner party at the Michelin star restaurant that preceded it. The night after that was well good, maybe not everything I had hoped for, but the forbidden element was exciting. He knew what he was doing, but it seemed practiced and devoid of emotion. There was no passion. He asked me to stay the night, but I refused, glad I kept my promise to Paul. It would have been easy to stay longer, the second round could have been better. I got home on time, barely, but the house was empty. It took me a while before I saw Paul's note on the refrigerator, "Back tomorrow." I called his cell phone and received the message unavailable. I assumed he had gone out for a drink and stayed at a friend's to drown his sorrows. I thought that was normal, it would at least give him time to cool down after all I had thrown at him without warning. I went to bed but could not sleep. Usually, if I was restless, I snuggled up to Paul and quickly fell asleep. I gave up at 5 a.m. and got up. By 10 a.m., I had cleaned almost the entire house to keep myself busy. My mind was a mess, trying to figure out what to say to Paul. He finally got home at 11 a.m. He didn't look hungover. "I'm sorry, I don't want to hear it, Susan. I'm moving into the guest room. I love you more than anything in the world." The last part was said to his back as he walked into the kitchen. I followed him and waited for him to ask how my night went. I prepared all my answers. "It was good, but not like with us," I said. "No, it was not more, it was a one-time incident. There were no feelings, I still loved Paul and only Paul." But there were no questions, he remained silent. Making myself a cup of tea, not for me, I noticed finally, I had to break the silence, perhaps not in the most witty way. Are you okay? He just looked at me like I was crazy. I understand that last night must have been difficult for you. I'm sorry, I said. He raised his hand. No. You don't regret it. It was all very planned and deliberate. Not knowing what to say, in desperation I asked, where did you go? You know, this is the first time you asked about me, everything else was only about you. To answer your question, I went on a date and stayed the night. What the hell? Don't worry, it was good, great, in fact. I have feelings for her, but it's not love. I heard an echo of my own prepared excuses. You an idiot. What, did you sleep with this? Is no way to talk about your mom. No, that's impossible, she wouldn't do that to me. You're mine, I'll strangle her. Well, how are you mine, except when you want Edward Rochester? How did you know his name? Oh, I know him, or should I say, his wife. We've been talking a lot the past few days. He is married, yes. As it turns out, it's been 12 years since she talked about detective stories, photographs, and divorce in a conversation yesterday. Oh yes, and about wiping him out this time. What do you mean, this time? God, did you think you were the first? Not even fifth, judging by the way she talks. Damn, this is trouble. I'm sorry, Paul. Can we forget about all this? I didn't cheat, you knew that. It's cheating if you plan everything in advance to be with him. It was a trap set by my wife that I blindly walked into. I called my mom, furious with her. How could you, Mom? Come on, Susan. What do you expect from your husband while you're hanging around with your lover and rubbing his nose in it? I'd rather he was in my bed than someone else's or getting drunk or chasing your lover for revenge. At least I could say a few kind words for you. How is he emotionally? I mean, do you think he was devastated? And he seems to know a lot more than you think. You planned all of this so you could have a connection. It wasn't about me at all, was it? It was, Mom. I thought Paul would help you. I didn't know what would happen with Edward, honestly. I'm not sure I believe you, and Paul certainly won't. Whatever you think, Paul is great in bed. You really mean it? Our intimate life seemed pretty routine. Then maybe you need to raise your bar, girl. He was definitely not routine, quite the opposite, quite inventive, in fact. I've never met a man who was so attentive. Paul just looked at me tiredly. Why did you do that? Damn, this was the question I feared the most. I knew the answer, it wasn't difficult. But I couldn't admit it without causing further damage. Even though my life with Paul and the kids was great, I wanted to give it a try. It was exciting, and I liked flirting and getting attention. I don't know, I think we became routine. I was flattered, and his company seemed exciting. I never meant to offend you. I admit I liked Edward, but I didn't want to cheat. I thought your time with me, Mom, was a reasonable trade-off, and we could both experience something new. What was so attractive about him? He was charming and handsome, with an aura of confidence. He was different from you. I never saw it as a choice or as his superiority, and I never stopped loving you. We got along, he's younger and successful. He's a good guy, you would like. Paul's head shot up, silencing me. Fortunately, I didn't finish that idiotic sentence. Nice guy, yeah, cheats and sleeps with married women. So, younger and the intimate was better. It was more new than anything, but there was no connection between us. So I'm not enough for you? No, this has never happened. You are my husband, the father of my children, and the love of my life. Oh, so it's my fault now? I didn't know our marriage depended on my weight. Maybe I should find someone who at least loves me. Oh, come on, Paul. You sit at home, watch sports, and drink beer. Your alternative is my mom, and I had to organize this for you. The look on his face made me realize that I had said something truly terrible. I'm tired because I'm tired of working and earning money for the house and vacations that you wanted, which the lover doesn't even think about. So not only cheating, you think I'm fat, lazy, and I don't like you anymore. What if I told you that? How would you feel? I would have been terrible. I'm sorry, I didn't mean. I burst into tears and ran out of the room. As I lay in bed and reflected on the previous night, I regretted how the conversation had gone. Finding myself in a corner, trying to justify my actions and only making things worse, the realization that I blamed him was truly devastating for me, and I was ashamed of myself. Worst of all, none of this was true. Paul was a strong and attractive man. He had gained a few extra pounds, but he was not fat. I always wanted to take care of him, appreciating how hard he worked. When did I forget about that? It seemed that admitting to cheating, no matter how short-term it was the worst thing a man could do. But trying to make it his fault when it wasn't was disgusting. Then, I implied that he wouldn't be able to attract other women. I unnecessarily offended him in an attempt to hide my guilt. A conversation about being petty. I must have gone crazy. I couldn't believe I told him that. Why did I even do it? Maybe deep down, I wanted to take a chance with Edward. I was frustrated with all the things we couldn't do and the lack of money. Someone as driven and successful as Edward had a lot of attraction, but I didn't want to risk everything. And I didn't want to cheat. Paul's time with my mom meant he couldn't complain about it. This would allow me to experience new things. Edward did not live up to all my hopes, but he was a handsome and rich man. The exchange now seemed like a ridiculous idea. I was afraid that Paul would never forgive me. I needed to start fixing everything immediately and went looking for him. I went downstairs and found him in the kitchen. It didn't mean anything. Maybe it didn't mean anything to you, but it means a lot to me. He made me feel special and valuable outside of my drab life as a housewife and mother. What about my gray and boring life? Going to work every day, taking every possible overtime to try to keep us afloat, so tired that all I can do is eat and stay awake on the couch. I didn't think about that. I see. Well, I need to rethink everything too. I was so desperate not to fail and let you down that I forgot about myself. I need to make some changes. I've decided to stop doing all this overwork so that I can have a better work-life balance, more time to do something else. Maybe we'll have to cut our expenses, go out less in the evenings, or you can ask Edward to pay for them. I won't see him anymore. Wow, thank you. That's kind of you. I'm honored. Damn, I just couldn't say anything right. I spoke to my mom again, trying to explain myself, with the same lack of success I had with Paul. When I confirmed that our nightlife was fairly routine, Mom was puzzled. I was amazed when she said that Paul brought her multiple pleasures. She asked what I did in the bedroom to keep things interesting, and I was dumbfounded. No, I didn't have nicely lingerie. I rarely pleased him. God, Susan, you're going to keep telling me that you're lying there with your eyes closed. I really didn't want to respond to that statement. It seemed too close to the truth. I tried to call CLA for advice and support, but she could barely talk to me, asking if I was crazy, reminding me that she had warned me repeatedly not to do anything with Edward. Her last comment caught me off guard. Paul is a good friend, a good person, and he deserved better from you. Paul began to spend more and more time outside the house. I realized that he was not drowning in sorrows. He actually went to the gym every evening. Then one weekend, he fixed up his old bike and started going out for rides. He began going on longer and longer rides, saying it was enjoyable and he felt fitter and more focused. He even joined a club and began attending club meetings, stating that he met people of different ages and backgrounds, all sharing a passion for bicycles. He got together with friends and returned to playing sports and hiking, in addition to social activities with them. I really missed him, missed hugs and conversations. I needed the help of my strong and stable husband. I was trapped by my own actions and couldn't find a way out. We almost collided at the bathroom door. Paul had just showered and had a towel wrapped around him. He looked good, really good. It didn't take much to get rid of the weight. He was doing physical labor and was toned. You look good, great in fact, I said. You're a little overweight, you don't need to go to the gym all the time. Part of the reason you slept with another man was because I was fat, sorry, not your exact words, but that was it. Oh yeah, chubby, I internally groaned. I never meant that. I'm sorry I mentioned it. It seemed as if he didn't hear me. There was sharpness and hidden anger in his voice. But you were right. It's a shame you didn't mention it earlier. We could have worked it out together. Once I started doing it again, I loved it, and it's not for you, it's for me. He pushed past me and closed his bedroom door. Consultation started as normal. What do we want from this? I replied, I want to restore our relationship, restore trust and love, and get back to where we were. Okay, we'll explore this further. How about you, Mr. Edmonds? I would like a partner that I can respect, that I can trust. I was glad we wanted about the same thing. At least he wanted us to stay together. I already respected him and was sure that I could regain his trust. Paul then continued, I definitely don't want to go back. It would be an idiotic repeat of the same mistakes that got us here. The consultant asked if I wanted to answer. I was amazed and had difficulty finding the words. I didn't see it that way. It wasn't a rational decision. Maybe there is some truth in what you say. I lost you. I forgot about all the positive things and everything you do for us. But I never stopped loving you. You may love me, but you've made it clear that you're not attracted to me. It's not like that. I like you, you look amazing. So what if I gain weight again or I get tired at work? Nothing will change. I will try to support you to become a better wife. But everything changed. You didn't like what you saw and you found someone else, someone younger, fitter, and perhaps with more dignity. That's not the point anyway, we were good together. Is that what you can't forgive? Night, that's all, but you made sure I knew you had a good time. So yeah, you emphasized the intim. It wasn't like the love we shared. I think I deserve a partner who finds me attractive and can't wait to be with me, unlike you with him. Honestly, I do find you attractive, but you rarely put an effort in the bedroom. Most times, you just lie there as if I should be honored to have you. When was the last time you initiated? Why do I always feel like I'm asking for a favor? Seriously, I thought our nightlife was good. Yes, my experience with Anna made me realize that passion was missing. Maybe that's what you were looking for, maybe you wanted something different from him, but I wasn't different. It felt the same with you. The counselor suggested we take a break to calm down. I was still trying to process what Paul had just said and remembered my mom's words about raising my standards. I needed to steer the conversation in a different direction. There was no point in going around in circles. Paul, I'll keep repeating it. I'm sorry. I'll never do anything like that again. It was selfish and stupid, yeah, but I'm sure it's a memory you want to keep as your guilty secret or share some nice memories and jokes with your friends. I wouldn't do that. I just want to forget it. We can't keep hurting each other. I want us to get back together. Paul seemed to consider this, clearly pondering something. I'm not trying to offend you, but I need to do what's right for me, not just you. You were right, and in a way, I don't like who I am. I need to figure it out myself. How can you even think that? You're the best person I know, so strong and caring. I didn't mean any of those things I said. I was just making excuses. It's my fault you feel this way. Let me help fix it. Maybe I could before, but now I don't think I can. You make things worse, not better. I derived a lot of my strength from having you around. Maybe I became too dependent. Please don't say that. I'm still here, and I'll do anything for you. I never thought it would come to this. Things didn't improve in subsequent sessions. He just couldn't forgive me for what I had done. It was bad enough, but he couldn't let go of some of the things I said to justify myself. He was attracted to me, respected me, but he just couldn't accept it. I still don't understand why. I can blame motherhood, boredom, and a loss of direction, but I think the opportunity was there, and I wasn't strong enough to resist it. That sounds like a very weak reason for ending a marriage. You know I can't forgive you, we're done, and I want a divorce. The reality of my situation dawned on me, facing the losing hand. I understand. I'm very sorry. I still love you and would do anything to stay with you, but I understand that's not possible. Paul looked at me with confusion, no doubt wondering if I was bluffing or rejecting him. I guess you win. Go be with your wealthy boyfriend, and now you can run away with him. I'll end up in a shoebox trying to pay for this, seeing my kids once a month, and you'll probably poison even that. What have I ever done to deserve this? I would never do that to you, Paul. I still love you. I will agree to anything you want. For money, you are a wonderful father, they need you more than ever. You could see them when you want. I know it's all my fault. I think these responses took him completely by surprise. He looked confused, nodding slowly in hesitant agreement. I decided to do whatever Paul wanted, including starting a divorce. I wouldn't resist too much, and I decided to remain friends with him. The anger will subside over time, and I definitely didn't want to burn any bridges if I can be perfect during the divorce. Maybe I can get him back. Paul turned out to be such a nice guy and was completely reasonable during our initial separation. I stayed in the house with the children, and child support. Paul was entitled to alternating days off, but I encouraged him to spend as much time with the kids as he wanted. He really appreciated it. I will survive. I was determined to stay strong, even if it meant divorce. I was an independent and attractive woman. I kept in touch with Edward. He was really heading towards his own divorce and was trying to minimize the damage. He wanted us to be together. In the beginning, I thought of him as a step up from Paul. This idea was shattered when I found out he was married. Now he was a fallback option at best. Things quickly deteriorated with Edward. His arrogance and sense of self-superiority did not take long to appear. It's not surprising that his wife said that I could take him for myself. It turned out he didn't have as much money as I thought, and he lost most of it due to divorce. And who has 5 children these days? He looked like a very poor alternative to Paul. It definitely made me appreciate everything I had with Paul. I had forgotten how much I depended on him. He was so calming and emotionally supportive. He was so easy to talk to and never complained about much of what I suggested. I managed to remain on very good terms with Paul, and we were friendly. I saw him sizing me up from time to time, and I dressed in a way that encouraged it even more. It was during a party with colleagues when I saw Paul with those couples with whom we had previously socialized. I continued to look at him, but he didn't notice me as always. He was calm, but when he spoke, everyone listened and always laughed. He was the center of discussion, not to mention he looked so good, lost weight and tan, and seemed to have received some advice from women about his clothing style. I wondered how I could focus on the negativity and small irritations when we were together, taking all the good things for granted. I missed so much about him, his support, and unconditional love. And he looks damn good sitting there across from me. When he went to order more drinks, I found the courage to talk to him. "Hi, Paul." I could see the shock on his face, but he quickly recovered. "Hi, Susan. Nice to see you." "Thank you, and you too. It's nice to see you with your friends. I've always done this, you just stopped coming with us. You should come and say hi to the guys." I hesitated, not sure how I would be received. Paul was always popular, and I let him down. "I can't do this. I'm ashamed of cheating on you. They'll treat you well, no one will choose sides. I'm sure they'll be glad to see you." In a few words, he made me realize what I had lost, and I wanted my husband back at any cost. Luckily, we were only separated and not divorced. I still had a chance. He was just absolutely nice to me. He must still have feelings for me. "Do you have to be so perfect, Paul? Can't you leave me something to cling to? You have the right to be bitter and angry at me. I deserve it. We have kids, and we need to move on and be good to each other for their sake. I knew you were a good person, Paul. I didn't realize you were a saint. Far from being a saint, your mother was, yeah, but I practically begged you to do it, and you always did what I wanted." I finally ended my relationship with Edward. It's time to stop hesitating and get my husband back. Strangely, Edward didn't seem bothered at all. He said I was his biggest mistake and he lost his wife over shitty intim. "You cheeky man." I tried to spend more time with Paul and the children. He truly was a wonderful father, so protective and caring, constantly making them laugh and having a patience that far exceeded mine. We talked more, and I often kissed him on the cheek when he left with the children. I didn't date or see other men, and I made sure Paul knew it. I also made sure he knew that a lot of guys had tried to get me interested, but none of them were up to the standards I was used to, and that was the honest truth. My campaign to get Paul back was going well, and I knew he had a great desire to be a functioning family again. If only I could get him back, I would be the best wife in the world. I even asked my mother to talk to Paul. I stood next to her, listening on speakerphone as she called him. Mom started by emphasizing what an idiot I was and that I realized it. I just can't get over it, Anna. This trust is bigger than intimate. She took me completely by surprise. Mom's eyes glared at me, emphasizing my mistakes. You know she didn't mean it, Paul. She was just making excuses. Coming back for the kid's sake or as a favor to me. I love you, Anna. I really do, and you're the prettiest woman I've ever met, but our time together really showed that there was something missing between me and Susan. I just don't think she was passionate about me, which is probably why she turned us against each other and why she cheated. I barely restrained myself from shouting, no, but I managed to resist. I'm sure that's not the case, Paul. If it helps you get back together, we could come up with a solution. I really enjoyed our time together, Anna, but it wouldn't be right. Maybe if I had resisted more with you, me and Susan would still be together. Either way, you should take care to meet someone special, things to share in your life. Trust me, you will not be short of offers. That's really nice of you to say, thank you, Paul. Our time together really meant the world to me. After the conversation ended, my mom pointed out that I was married to a wonderful man, and it might be best for both of us to move on. My attempt to use my mother as a cover failed disastrously, showing Paul what he was missing: intimacy. It was annoying and completely disappointing. I wanted to be able to pamper and seduce him and give myself to him completely. Despite my campaign to get Paul back, the legal wheels moved inexorably forward. We were supposed to meet at a restaurant to sign the divorce papers, but I had other plans. I bought a designer dress, lingerie, and heels, wanting to look my best. I saw how his gaze slid over me. My body was covered in goosebumps at the thought. Is this a nice outfit to highlight what I'm missing, or do you just want to show off a little more? There's nothing good in this tragedy. The outfit is for you, fool. I want you to pay attention to me again. Paul looked confused. Let's get this over with already. I already signed the papers. Just take them. Maybe we shouldn't sign them yet. You've got to be kidding. What are you even talking about? I'm talking about staying together as a family. We are meant to be together. I'm not going to see anyone else, and I'm wondering if we have a chance. I love you. It's so simple. I didn't realize how much until I took the risk of losing you. I was a fool for taking that risk, but I know deep down that you still love me. I was never enough for you. You always wanted more things and money. This was the life you wanted, the one we built, and then suddenly you didn't want it. You stopped hanging out with our friends. You preferred shopping and bachelorette parties. None of this matters to me anymore, Paul. I just want our family together. Just quit if you don't want to work. We'll find a way to cope. I'm happy with my life. You weren't, so there's no point in going back to it. I want our life together more than anything. My episode with Edward was a terrible mistake. I would have been willing to do anything intimate. I should have been more creative with you instead of looking elsewhere. My mom still praises you. Yeah, until the next rich smooth Casanova comes along and winks at you and waves a credit card. His comment really hit home. That's not going to happen, Paul. Neither of us is dating anyone, and I know you're still attracted to me. Who says I'm not dating someone? I agreed to go out with Claire tonight. We've seen each other quite a bit, but she insisted we wait until we sign these papers before moving forward. Claire, my friend Claire? You can't be serious. Oh, but I'm serious. Actually, we were talking before your date. How do you think I found out about Edward? I thought his wife was contacting you. No, I contacted his wife after your little request. She was already on his trail. It was Claire who warned me about your plans and tried to talk to you over and over again, but you were determined to do it, so she stopped coming out. She thought telling me would stop everything. I think we both underestimated how determined and selfish you are. I opened my mouth in surprise. I couldn't believe Claire betrayed me. Paul continued, she doesn't think I'm fat either. You know how it is. You think everything works out, and then life and people change. Turns out Claire always thought you were lucky to catch me. With me and Claire, we decided it would be wise to wait and not make hasty decisions, especially with children, but I will date her. Paul put the final nail in my coffin. I took a serious look at myself and realized that my only mistake was loving you. Sign the papers, Susan. We're done. The divorce was progressing. There was little I could do to slow it down. I often saw Claire and Paul together. They looked so happy, and my children adored her. She was always cheerful. I tried to be happy for Paul, I really did. He deserved it after everything. But it's just not fair. He should be mine. Maybe if I keep being nice, I can eventually win him back. What do you think of our story today? In my opinion, the girl should have immediately told that she liked another man, and so she deserves to be punished, that's for sure. What's your opinion? Write in the comments. See you in the next video.